KGW Breaking News.
And good afternoon. Thanks for joining us here at noon. I'm Tim Gordon. In just a matter of moments, we're expecting an update from officials on Sunday's deadly shooting in Seattle. We'll be sure to take that once it gets underway. But first, here's what we know so far. 3 people are dead. 4 others were hurt in that shooting at the Seattle Center on Sunday. Police are calling one of the 3 dead victims an associate of the 15-year-old suspected gunman who was arrested. The Seattle Police Department says this appears to be gang-related with at least 3 people involved. That 15-year-old suspect waived his right to a first hearing yesterday. His lawyer appeared for him. He is facing 3 first-degree assault charges. That is for the 3 of the 7 victims, including the 2-year-old child who at last check is stable at this point. The 15-year-old was detained along with a 19-year-old associate who later died of gunshot wounds at the scene. At this point, police have not released a description for the 3rd suspect. All right, we want to turn our attention back to that press conference now where officials are starting to give us an update on Sunday's shooting. Let's listen in.
Okay. Good afternoon, members of the press. Thank you for joining myself and Chief Barnes for the latest information in this ongoing investigation. I appreciate your partnership in sharing where we're at in this investigation. We continue to make sure that injured victims receive the care and the resources they need. Yesterday, the medical examiner reported the identities of the deceased. Ashley Whitehead, 44 years old. 56-year-old Ashley Whitehead, 44-year-old Carlos Israel Sanchez Villalba, and 19-year-old Junior C. Nico Sema. Except for the 19-year-old who we believe was involved in the shooting, we understand that all others who have passed or were injured were bystanders. Thank you to those who organized and attended the vigil on the Seattle Center campus last night, honoring and mourning these 3 individuals and all who have tragically lost their lives to gun violence in our city. I appreciated being there, being welcomed in community, including talking with people who knew the victims and connecting with fathers who have lost children to gun violence. I had a chance to talk with vendors, with youth, and others who were at the Bite of Seattle on Saturday, and members of the Seattle Center community about their experiences. I want to go off script for a moment just to share one of the most meaningful moments last night for me. Aaron Murphy Payne, who is the father of Amar Murphy Payne, who was shot and killed outside Garfield High School in 2024, spoke eloquently. And one of the things that he said was that when a tragedy like this happens, often we say, I can't imagine. I can't imagine what it would be like to be there. I can't imagine what it would be like to be a victim or to be a family member of a victim. And he said, we have to start imagining. We have to start imagining. And for me, as the mother of a 2-year-old who spends a lot of time at Seattle Center and knowing that a 2-year-old was shot, I can imagine. And I think Aaron is right. We have to start imagining because that lends this work the urgency that it deserves. To continue honoring all of those impacted by this senseless act of violence, the community is invited to gather for a silent vigil at 6:30 p.m. on Wednesday. Come support one another. Bring a flower or a written message to the International Fountain, a space for reflection, compassion, and healing. We're working with our Office of Economic Development and the Seattle Center to reach out to the vendors who were impacted by the shooting and to understand what types of support they might need. And we remain committed to working with impacted neighborhoods across our city, from Rainier Beach to the Chinatown International District and Little Saigon to Capitol Hill and North Aurora, to address both the immediate impacts and the root causes of gun violence. Yesterday, we shared that at least 2 people exchanged gunfire outside the Seattle Center Armory. 1 is in custody, and a 2nd has been identified as the 19-year-old deceased man. Police believe that this was targeted gang-related violence and continue to look for other possible suspects. At the press conference held Monday at noon, I shared a little bit about our approach for dealing with gun violence long-term. We are bringing in an expert in gun violence reduction, including youth violence prevention, who will partner with our city staff and our community-based partners to strengthen our coordination and accountability across our existing bodies of work. We are also in communication with and reaching out to the National Network for Safe Communities, Cure Violence Global, the National Institute for Criminal Justice Reform, and Cities United. These are organizations with demonstrated track records of helping cities to stand up successful gun violence reduction strategies across the country. And we look forward to learning from them about gaps and opportunities to enhance our existing gun violence work. And I want to express thanks to Councilmember Rivera for the gun violence symposium that she recently organized to help to move this conversation forward. We will be undertaking this work in partnership with our City Council, the King County Executive and Council, the Regional Office for Gun Violence Prevention, our elected city and county attorneys, state and federal law enforcement partners, and most importantly, our communities who are disproportionately impacted by the epidemic of gun violence. At the same time as we are advancing new strategies at the local level, we also know that reducing the number of guns on our streets requires state and federal policy changes. We're grateful for the leadership of the governor and state lawmakers who advanced this work in Olympia, and for our United States senators and representatives who tirelessly advocate for common sense reforms in our nation's capital. Let them know that you care too. I want to continue to express gratitude to our police officers who have been working nonstop since this tragedy occurred and are providing regular updates to my office. And thank you to the victim advocates team at the Human Services Department and all of our community partners who are focused on violence interruption. And I also want to again recognize and thank the staff at the Seattle Center who've been steadfast in their support and coordination during an incredibly difficult time. And now I'm going to turn things over to Chief Barnes for some updates on the investigation.
Good morning. As the city continues to grieve the loss of Ashley, Israel, and Junior, please keep the survivors of violence dear in our hearts. We remain focused on getting justice for all people involved in every aspect of this tragedy. That means we have a lot of work to do, and I want to provide you with the most up-to-date information about this active, ongoing, and dynamic investigation. We've been poring over evidence that we have recovered, and we're not slowing down. This includes video, physical evidence, photos, witness, and victim statements. We have dozens of pieces of digital evidence to review and are continuing to review that information as well as searching the area for more. Since Sunday night, we have received more than 80 calls to our SPD tip line, which is absolutely incredible. If you know anything, please call our tip line at 206-233-5000, 206-233-5000. At this point, we have interviewed all survivors and multiple witnesses, and will continue to do so in the upcoming days. Our hearts go out to these survivors, the families of victims, and our community. This is nothing short of a tragedy. We've had questions concerning camera footage. We have no real-time crime center cameras in that area, but we are currently reviewing all available camera footage in the entire area. This effort is being led by our homicide detectives as well as our SPD digital forensics team. We actually have a team of specialized investigators that know how to access, find, and download camera footage. This is not the case for a lot of police departments, so I want to highlight that work. We're still working on identifying other potential witnesses and continue to ask the community for support. Again, if you know something and yet you have not had an opportunity to talk to us, please call that number again, 206-233-5000. You can remain anonymous, but due to the high levels of calls that we have been receiving, if you leave a message, someone will get back to you as soon as possible.
Okay, we're going to break away from that news conference up in Seattle regarding the Sunday shooting that killed 3 and injured 4 others. Here are a few new details that we learned from the press conference. Seattle's mayor spoke first. Katie Wilson said she's a mother of a 2-year-old, sharing her concern because there was a 2-year-old victim in all of this, injured by the gunfire. Really calling for change there. Another vigil on Wednesday evening. They're announcing at International Fountain. The mayor says they're working with vendors at Seattle Center to see that they get all that they need. Police say this was a targeted gang violence incident, and the city's working with various groups now to bring down gun violence. More on that later. Police Chief Sean Barnes poring over the evidence. They say now they've got video and other digital evidence that they're going through. They say they've gotten 80 calls to tip line on this, and they're not slowing down their investigation, that they have interviewed all the victims and other witnesses. Both of those officials shared their sympathies with those affected. All right, well, we're moving on now. And Portland police are investigating after a pedestrian was killed in a hit and run along Highway 26 near the Oregon Zoo early this morning. Police say officers responded just before 1:45 a.m. and found the person dead at the scene. Investigators say the driver fled before police arrived. Eastbound Highway 26 was closed for several hours at the Sylvan exit while the major crash team processed the scene there. So far, police have not released the victim's identity or a description of the vehicle they're searching for. Anyone with information is asked to contact Portland police. Well, according to Oregon's wildfire dashboard, more than 1 million acres of land have now been burned by wildfires in the state, and the state is on pace for its worst fire season on record. The worst year was 2024 with more than 1.9 million acres burned, but that was for the entire season. Right now, it's only end of July. One of the largest fires in the state is the Roe Creek Complex fire, which has burned more than 215,000 acres as of the last update. So far, crews have kept this fire from destroying any homes. Fire officials say they don't typically see these dry conditions, high winds, and lightning until August.
For all of these to start almost at the same time, and the magnitude of the growth of all of them, it just pretty much overwhelmed the systems.
As crews across the state bear down, they're grateful for reinforcements from around the country and also around the world, including Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. In Warm Springs, the bench fire has grown to more than 45,000 acres with 0% containment. So far, 6 homes and 5 outbuildings have been destroyed. We spoke to tribal member Isla James, who says her community is devastated.
And this is all we have. For a lot of people, it's their start and where they were planning to spend generations. So it's hard for a lot of people.
Now, much of central and eastern Oregon is dealing with poor air quality because of those fires. Yesterday, the Department of Environmental Quality issued an advisory for 13 counties in Oregon. That's about a third of the state being warned about unhealthy conditions. With air quality in mind, let's turn things over to meteorologist Chris McGinnis, who's tracking the latest conditions around the state. Chris.
Yeah, and everywhere, Tim, shaded in gray under that air quality advisory for, well, let's say Wasco County, Jefferson, Crook County, Wheeler County, Grant County. Interestingly, Deschutes County has had a bit of a reprieve in the poor air quality there. But again, ongoing wildfires east of the Cascades are just making for very, very smoky conditions here. You can see some of the red and purple dots showing up across Wheeler, Grant, and Union County. In fact, that purple dot right now indicating very unhealthy air, not far from the LeGrand area. So a lot of folks east of the Cascades still dealing with this. Of course, this is cloud cover here for the northwest part of the state, but then every one of these areas here that looks kind of grayish on the map, those are smoke plumes from the individual wildfires, and it all just kind of melds together here as the prevailing wind carries that over to eastern Oregon, and that'll be the case pretty much indefinitely at this point. Of course, there are some road closures out there as well. Highway 20 is closed for like 75 miles east of Burns. US 26 is closed through central Oregon as well between Prineville and Mitchell, again because of ongoing wildfire fighting efforts. From the wildfires to the cloud cover, we've got some of that on the coast. We even have had a few sprinkles showing up along the North Oregon coast, currently 66 in Lincoln City. The sky clearing out, though, nicely here in downtown Portland, where we've risen to 72 in the last half an hour or so. I've got us topping out at about 79 this afternoon, and across the region, upper 70s to about 80 degrees will do it in the Willamette Valley. So not quite as warm as yesterday, but still a pretty good looking day after the morning cloud cover is pretty well burned off. And here's our 7-day forecast. Mostly sunny, a bit warmer tomorrow, Thursday. Friday's the warm day of the week where we may get close to the 90-degree mark. And then we cool it down a little bit heading into the first weekend of August. Tim, back to you.
All right, Chris, thanks very much.